All right, I know I'm a day late, or two, 2 days late. But we're gonna do this anyway. Life happens sometimes. All right, so this is week 8 review, and we are looking at first matchup. Big Papa Swag gets Sixer Die Tryin against Emma Gregg and Gilladine. Gilladine came up on top, 179.62 to get Sixer Die Trying's 116 even. This is also the Gilladine's best score of the year so far, so good job this week. Big Papa Swag, Daniel Jones had 9 points, kind of a disappointment there. 176 passing yards and 20 yards on the ground, no touchdowns, just a bad game. He really had a good setup because Seattle's defense was kind of letting quarterbacks and opposing teams do fairly well, and Seattle's offense, for whatever reason, was also doing pretty well. Well, already starting yawning. All right, it just didn't work out. So, next we have Kenneth Walker, got 12.2. He got a touchdown, plus 51 yards on the ground, 1 catch for 1 yard. Definitely not his best output. But the Giants have a pretty good front defensive line, so not really that surprising that he didn't do that well. Dexter Lawrence, defensive end for the Giants, has one of the top graded through PFF, top PFF grades so far through week 8. So he's doing pretty well. Najee Harris, this guy is pretty much consistent. He's going to get you 11 or 12 points. He got 11.96. So he threw a pass for 4 yards. He also had 32 yards on the ground, 6 catches and 26 yards. So pretty good. Just kidding. He's been middling or average. They better up their offensive line this next year or they are going to be in trouble. Steelers, I mean. All right, Chris Olave, 10.2 points. He had 5 catches, 52 yards, no score, but, he's not going to score every single week. Otherwise, doing all right. Michael Thomas, this is a little bit late as far as normally when I would do this, but Michael Thomas has been put on IR for the rest of the season. So his outlook is pretty good, I would say. This also boosts Taysom Hill and Kamara. So the fact that they've been doing fairly well in Michael Thomas's absence, and now they have to be the focal point because he's not coming back. Tyreek Hill had a really good game, 32.5 points. He had 1 carry for 7 yards, 12 catches on 14 targets, 188 yards. No scores. But it was in a pretty crazy game against Detroit. They won 31-27. So, yeah, he was pretty consistent in getting a lot of targets, but also catching those and doing pretty good with the yards. Dallas Goedert had a good game, pretty much right around when he was projected to 12.4 points, 6 catches for 64 yards. He's been a really good tight end this year so far in fantasy, fairly consistent, anywhere from like 7 or 9 points at the low end to 16 plus on the high end. So. Terry McLaurin, 17.6 points. He had 1 carry for a 7-yard loss. He had 6 catches for 113 yards. So he's had some good weeks. He's had some okay weeks, but generally he gets a touchdown when he gets about 17 points. But yeah, good job for him for getting getting those scores there, or getting the points without necessarily having all the scores. Next, we're looking at Michael Carter, who got 10.10. Sorry, 10.1. 10, that's stupid. Anyway, dumb. 10.1, he had 7 carries, 26 yards, 4 catches for 35 yards. Kind of a bummer, considering that Breece Hall's gone. But good news is that against New England, they usually have a pretty good defense. They always play well against the Jets. If you need any historical data for that, just reference the butt fumble. And actually, anytime since the butt fumble that the Jets have played the Patriots, it's been pretty bad. Let's see. Anybody of note on the bench? Well, George Pickens got 3 targets and no catches. So this is his worst game of the season. But since the trade deadline passed after this week, Claypool is gone. Oh, man, I'm yawning. Claypool's gone. He got shipped off to the Bears. So it is now Pickens and Deontay Johnson. So we will see what happens moving forward. But Claypool, who occasionally would get 7 or 8 targets, 11 targets, and then, 1 or 2 targets, all of those sporadic targets are going to go somewhere else. Probably Pickens, and then also because Deontay Johnson probably gets about 11 targets a game anyway. The rest will probably go between Pickens and Freiermuth, but we'll see. And last but not least, whenever Kyle Pitts is on my bench, you bet he's going to score a touchdown, or at least he's going to score a touchdown only on the weeks he's on my bench, not every single week he's on the bench. But if he does score one, you can bet he's going to be on the bench. So 19 points for him, 5 catches, 80 yards, and a touchdown. This is his best game of the season, folks. And he's probably not going to get anywhere close to 19 points. So if you're thinking, if you have your own fantasy league out there, a different fantasy league, and you have Kyle Pitts, you're looking at that 19 points going, ooh, he might be going somewhere. Think again, folks. Why I want to say that. He's been a pretty hot and cold player since he came in the league. He had a couple of really, really big games last year, and a lot of yards, good catches. That was with Matt Ryan, understanding the system, a good quarterback. Now he has Marcus Mariota. Not as good of a quarterback as a passer, and a little bit more of a runner, so he's going to have that to fall back on. Matt Ryan just had to throw it or get sacked. So, Kyle Pitts is a definite downgrade this year. Sad, but true. All right, Gilladine, here we go. Kirk Cousins, 27.48 points. Good job, Kirk Cousins. 232 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4 carries, 22 yards, and a score. He also lost a fumble. Man, Kirk Cousins might be the best quarterback who ever played a 1 o'clock slate if you're Eastern. But you put him at any other time slot, and oh boy, he's going to have a bad game. He's going to have a bad time. Just how it works. Triple Crown winner, Christian McCaffrey, 42.26 points. He had a touchdown pass of 34 yards. He also had 94 yards on the ground and a touchdown, and 8 catches for 55 yards and a touchdown. Fun fact, he had more points. Oh, who was it? I'm already missing it. Oh, no. I'm going to have to try to come back to this one. I forget which quarterback. There's a quarterback that bombed. I'm going to find it. You just wait. Shoot. Okay. McCaffrey, and I can't remember which one it was. Maybe who had a bad week last week in week 8? So anyway, a prominent quarterback had a terrible week. Christian McCaffrey scored more than him. He also had better yardage than Jonathan Taylor, and also had a better receiving week than Justin Jefferson. So I would say he's a pretty monster addition there to San Francisco. If he stays healthy, he can be a league winner, Tim McGregor. Let's see what happens. Josh Jacobs, a real disappointing week. Ever since he's been scoring like 30 points on the regular, he came up with 7.4. That's sad. He had 43 yards on the ground, 2 catches for 11 yards. They didn't score. They couldn't do much, the Raiders. Devontae Adams had like 1.2 points. I know we'll cover him in a minute, but oh my word, that was just bad. Bad game for the Raiders. New Orleans just going to shut them down. Clearly, they got no points. Cooper Kupp, 22.9, right about what he was projected. 2 carries for 10 yards, 8 catches, 79 yards, and a touchdown. So pretty much right on. Good job, Cooper. Supposed to play this week in Week 9. He was a little bit injured, so we'll see if he's a little bit limited in the game or if you just don't notice it because he just plays and does whatever anyway, what he wants. Mike Evans, 19.3 points. He had 6 catches on 11 targets, 123 yards, no touchdowns. Pretty sure he dropped missed an opportunity with a really open touchdown. I don't remember if it was a drop or if he just got tackled, like a weak tackle. But he could have had a lot more points on that one. It was like a deep ball, touchdown. I'm pretty sure it was a drop, but I could be mistaken. That might be the 40-plus yard reception. Taysom Hill, kind of up and down week, but 8.28 for a tight end is still a solid. Not gonna kill you there. At least he got something. He had one pass for 2 yards, 61 yards on the ground, and he also caught a pass for 11 yards. So if you're gonna have a threat for a triple crown, he's got two of them. Probably the only two in the league: Taysom Hill and Christian McCaffrey. So, I mean, that's a kind of an interesting dynamic there. Oh, my word. All right, let's not die here. 12.3 points for Michael Pittman. He's kind of had a pedestrian couple of weeks. He had a really solid, I think 2 really solid weeks where he got more than 20 points. And ever since then, he's kind of been kind of average. And a lot of that has to do with the quarterback play. He did have 9 targets, but 7 catches, 53 yards. That just kind of means he's not being targeted downfield. Probably not even much of the medium. It's just short, and then he's doing something with it. It's just, not getting a lot of yardage there. Tony Pollard had a really, really big game. Zeke was out, and he just decided, I'm just going to run all over Chicago. 14 carries, 131 yards, 3 touchdowns. He had a rush of scoring touchdown of more than 50 yards, which gave him a ton of points, and also a catch for 16. So good job. Anyone of note, he had Deontay Foreman, 31.8 points on the bench, had 118 yards on the ground, 3 touchdowns, no catches. But if he would have had Deontay Foreman, he would have he would have had the most points ever scored in a single week in the history of this year. I don't remember. I don't think I can look up the scores from last year in Yahoo before we transferred that over, because that could have been in the running for highest score in this dynasty. But I don't. That's kind of non-recoverable. So. But doesn't matter. Fun fact, there have only been 2 games in which more than 200 points have been scored, and center field has both of those games. So, if you want to know who has the highest ceiling in this dynasty, I would say it's Crushers. All right. Nyheim Hines, 12.9 points, 5 carries, 20 yards, a touchdown, 2 catches for 29 yards, and now he goes against. Well, he was on the Colts, and now he's going to be playing for the Buffalo Bills. There's another guy that got traded. Oh, another guy that got traded was on Big Papa Swag. I'm looking at him right now, Jeff Wilson. Kind of curious to see how that's going to turn out. One thing that I hate, whenever you have a trade in fantasy football, if you look at the stats, it will look like there's nothing. I'm going to rant here. There's no way to tell when these players got traded, what week they got traded. Whoever team they're on at the end of the season, they're going to reflect that team's schedule. So if you look at the points, their points are going to be the same. But like, say Jeff Wilson played against the Dolphins at some point in this year. I don't think they played the Niners. But if they played against the Dolphins at some point this year, and you look back on his stats that he scored in that game, it will show whoever the Dolphins played that week, so it would show against the Niners. It literally just replaces the teams for that team. I think it's stupid. Like, you have some sort of denominator or some sort of icon or something saying trade in this week, and then the weeks that are already played have those teams that you played against set in stone, and then the teams moving forward that have yet been to be played can be moved and manipulated as to what team they're playing. So in other words, Jeff Wilson, Nyheim Hines, they would have kept their respective teams, the Niners and the Colts, respectively. They would have kept their schedules up until the point they got traded, and now they would reflect their new team's schedule the rest of the way. But no, if you look at it now, it looks like they've been on the Dolphins and the Bills the entire time, which obviously is not true. Anyway, anyone else of note? Jacoby Myers to 21 points on the bench also could have been a big game for even bigger for Demogreg if he had played that. I think it's like 230 or something was his best possible score. So yeah, George Kittle got more points than Taysom Hill, which every time you switch it, whatever tight end is going to be on your bench is the one that's going to get more points. So you're just cursed that way, Demogreg. All right, and again, this is Demogreg and Big Papa Swag. Demogreg came out on top, 179.62 to 116. The win brings Demogreg to 6-2 and drops Get Six or Die Trying to 5-3. All right, next matchup. We have Suck My Unit and Team Bumpo. This one came down to Monday Night Football, this scary Halloween event. Well, it may not have been scary for the Browns, but it sure was scary for the Bengals. Joe Burrow and the Bengals cannot beat the Browns. I know I'm a little biased, but look to last year when they played full strength. They were going on runs. This was when Jamar Chase was starting to be that big deal, and they got blown out 35-17, something like that. Kind of similar to the score that was Monday night, 32-13. And then again, the Browns beat the Bengals in Week 18 last year, although granted the Bengals were sitting a bunch of their players, but a win's a win. I'll take it. When everybody was playing, they got beat down. So I don't know. The Bengals cannot get past the Browns, no matter how good the team might be or what kind of run they go on. All right, so starting with Suck My Unit, let's look about Kyler Murray, 30.64 points, 31 completions, 326 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks, and 36 yards on the ground. I really do feel like he needs to run the ball more. 36 yards is not terrible, but if he had like 63 yards, be more of a threat, then I think teams wouldn't. He'd have more passing lanes to get through. Now, granted, he didn't have a terrible game, but the only reason he didn't have a terrible game was he kept throwing to DeAndre Hopkins, who pretty much got about half of his yardage thrown and almost half of the catches. So Kyler Murray needs to run the ball a little bit more. I'm going to say that. Not do read options like some quarterbacks will do, but not even designed runs. I would just say have people run 4 verticals. I guess that would be his designed run. I don't know. Just let him loose a little bit more. I know he really wants to stay in the pocket and be a pocket passer, but he needs to use the strength that he has, and those are those quick feet. He's got some quick feet. Devin Singletary, 9.3 points. He had 14 carries for 67 yards, a catch for 16. His role is going to diminish, maybe not in the running game, but in the passing game for sure. Zach Moss is gone in Buffalo, and he's on the Colts. He got swapped, essentially, for Hines. So we'll see what happens there. Benjamin had a bad game to start, then a great game, and then another bad game. Here he is with the dud, 9 carries, 22 yards, 4 catches for 23 yards. In that loss to Minnesota, didn't really make much of a difference. Tyler Lockett, though, however, had 5 catches for 63 yards, a touchdown, but he lost a fumble. He got 15.3 points, so good for you, Tyler. CeeDee Lamb, kind of a decent week for him. He's had a kind of a down year, unfortunately. A lot of it probably has to do with the fact that a lot of the other wideouts are hurt and or gone from last year. Most notably Amari Cooper, but also Gallup's trying to get his feet under him again. They lost a couple other minor, like 4th and 5th string wide receivers, but they didn't really add anybody of consequence, so that doesn't help. And Dak's been injured for about 6-7 weeks. But in this game, in this week, Week 8, where we're really looking, he had 1 carry for 1 yard, 5 catches, 77 yards, and a touchdown. So we got on the board, which is great. Got a score on the board, which is awesome. So they had help with the 18.8, but yeah, he needs to do better. He could totally do better. And in a game where they scored 49 points, he only got 18.8. That's, I don't know. Tunyon, 8.5 points. He had 5 catches for 35 yards. End of stat line. Tunyon has a real kind of up and down, more on the downside, but also when it's up good because Packers don't have anything going on, so they kind of just feed a guy. If he's making stuff happen, then they'll keep giving it to him. Chris Godwin, 14.5 points. He had 6 catches on 11 targets, 75 yards, no touchdowns. He's kind of not. I think he's got 1 touchdown since coming back. But once he starts getting in the end zone, his score is probably going to jump up to over 20 every week. DK Metcalf, 17.5 points. He had 6 catches, 55 yards, and a touchdown. I don't know about y'all, but I'm shocked he played in this game. Nonetheless, got 17 points. This guy had to get carted off the field with a terrible leg injury, and he's like, just kidding, I'm back this week. So, you know how that goes. All right, players on the bench to note. Justin Fields had 30 points. He had 17 pass completions, 151 yards, so not a lot. 2 touchdowns there, and then 60 yards on the ground and a touchdown. So a lot of his points were obviously those 3 touchdowns, plus the 60 yards on the ground. They improved as well. They got Chase Claypool. So Chase Claypool opposite Darnell Mooney, Cole Kmet. I feel like the might be able to take some pressure off of that offense as a whole, adding someone who is going to elevate the offense if given a shot. So, I mean, he's not a Amari Cooper or anyone, Tyreek Hill. He's not a wide receiver 1 coming in. He's definitely, I mean, he's a top 3 wide receiver in the NFL. Just kidding. He's not even top 3 on his own team. No, he is top 3. Just the 3rd best on his team. That's muddy. Well, that's what he must have meant. Alrighty, Antonio Gibson. Yeah, Antonio. I wanted to say Banderas for some reason. I'm reading Gibson, and I said Antonio, and then I wanted to say Banderas. I'm so dumb. All right. 20.7 points. He had touchdown and 7 catches at 58 yards. That's pretty much where he did his damage. He also had 19 yards on the ground, but that's inconsequential. He's a receiving threat right now. Obviously, he was a receiver in college. I'm really surprised. They made an effort to flip J.D. McKissick and bring him back from Buffalo, but they've just had Gibson fill in that role. So, I don't know. Khalil Herbert had 99 yards on the ground and a touchdown, so giving him 15.9 in a game in which I wonder what happened to Montgomery. Did play. Montgomery played, but he also did terrible. So Montgomery's stock is going down, dropping. Rondale Moore had 8 targets, 7 catches, 92 yards, and a touchdown to give him 23.4 points. That is, the name is P. Suck My Unit. Moving on to Team Bumpo. Bumpo 1303. Managing Team Bumpo 1303. Wow, original name. Tua Tagovailoa, 36.18 points. He had 29 completions, 382 yards, 3 touchdowns. He also ran the ball for 19 yards. Tyreek Hill, I think Jalen Waddle had a big game, but I know Tyreek Hill had a big game. 3 touchdowns, and none of them were to Tyreek Hill. So they can pass the ball around. They have plenty of players. You can't just key in on Tyreek Hill because you could try to keep Tyreek Hill out of the end zone. He's still going to get 188 yards and 12 catches, which is what he got. But you also got Jalen Waddle, who's just as dangerous as Tyreek Hill, be a degree less, half a degree less. You also have Mostert. Chase Edmonds is somewhere else, so he's not there anymore. Jeff Wilson's there, and he's okay as a pass catcher, but I wouldn't put him down as a stud or anything. But yep, Tua Tagovailoa. Saw some analysts come out and say that this proves that he's better than Justin Herbert. I don't believe it, but, to each his own. Nick Chubb, in the game I mentioned earlier with the Browns and the Bengals on Halloween, he had 25.4 points. He had 101 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns, a 2-point conversion. He also caught a ball for 3 yards. Just ran all over Cincinnati. Kareem Hunt had about 70 yards of total offense. No touchdowns there, but definitely contributed. So between the two of them, they got almost 180 yards of total offense, which is good. So, I'll take it just from the running backs. Brissett is definitely a bit of a bummer when it comes to getting hyped for the Browns offense. But Nick Chubb, best running back in football. All right, moving on. Damian Harris, 7.2 points, did not get a touchdown. He also got targeted in the passing game, 2 catches for 15 yards. He also got 11 carries for 37, so he's getting a little bit of run. That's kind of crazy. But yeah, DeAndre Hopkins, he had a big game, 33.9 points. He had 13 targets, 12 catches, 159 yards, and a touchdown. So DeAndre Hopkins back to doing DeAndre Hopkins things. Let's see. He has been back for 2 games. He's got 262 yards receiving and 27 catches. I don't think that anybody has done as well as he has. Oh, I'm sorry. 27 catches. That's his targets, not catches. 22 catches. So that's a lot. And 1 touchdown. But he's averaging over 10 yards a catch. So that's awesome. Way to go, bud. He's going to probably level off here. I would say he might have a 3 down weeks. Seattle might, for some reason, I have a feeling Seattle's going to hold him a little bit. And then the Rams, it's always tough. Rams, he's going to shadow him. San Fran, it's just tough. Kyler Murray's going to have to be running for his life, so he's not going to get the best looks. DeAndre Hopkins has a really good chance of not having a good game. But then I think right before their bye, when they play the Chargers, he might be able to get back on track. So I think DeAndre Hopkins is probably going to have 3 down weeks before he has 1 good week and then a bye week. So, but we shall see what ends up happening there. Cortland Sutton, he's been kind of a bummer these last couple of weeks. He had 1 catch for 13 yards, giving him 2.3 points. Yeah, the quarterback situation in Denver is not giving one a lot of hope either. Tyler Higbee didn't have a great game, but he had 4 missed opportunities. He only ended up with 2 catches for 15 yards, giving him 3.5 points. Tyler Boyd had a just good enough game to beat me in one of my other leagues. Sad day. But he had 3 catches at 38 yards and a touchdown, giving him 12.8. So, don't like you, Tyler Boyd. Anyway, Curtis Samuel, 10.9 points. He had 29 yards on the ground, 3 catches for 50 yards. Brissett is on a roster. I should have known Bumpo would have Brissett. The only other Browns fan in this league. 17 completions, 278 yards. So, that's a pretty good passing game for him, throwing 278 yards. He did have a touchdown in the air. He also had 12 yards and a touchdown on the ground, but he also lost a fumble. In a game, they crushed Cincinnati that I knew they would anyway. So, Dak Prescott had a decent game as well. 29 points, he had 250 yards, 2 touchdowns through the air, and then 1 on the ground. So you're going to have good things when you can score 18 points just on touchdowns. So let's see. Who else had a good game? Darnell Mooney had a decent game, 5 catches for 70 yards. I really do think that Darnell Mooney's going to start doing better. Just same with Justin Fields now that Claypool is there in Chicago. So and Conklin had a big game, 6 catches, 79 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So that was the matchup review for the Name is P, Suck My Unit, and Bumpo's Team Bumpo. The win moves Team Bumpo up to 3-5, and Suck My Unit drops to stay even at 3-5. So moving on to the next matchup. Masters of the Universe toppled Crushers. That was, I think, the shock of the week. I think, one of the shocks of I think that's the biggest. That was the biggest flip here. So Naschy's Masters of the Universe got 137.52 points to Centerfield's Crushers with 122.42. So Masters of the Universe ended up on top on this game. And how did he do it? Well, let's go through that. Trevor Lawrence got 8.8 points. So not the best game for Trevor Lawrence, and they lost it on that final drive. He threw 2 picks, had 1 touchdown, only 133 yards passing. So they kind of relied on ETN, who did have a big game. But yeah, Trevor Lawrence needs to do better as a passer if Jags want to kind of get back to their surprisingly great winning ways there that they had week 2 and 3. Joe Mixon, 12.9 points. He was really bottled up against Cleveland. He had a total of 59 yards, but he got 7 catches. So that really boosted his fantasy score, but just in the game, kind of useless. Doesn't really help. So 27 yards on the ground, 32 in the air, but 7 catches. So I don't know what to tell you. Bengals can't beat the Browns right now. Ramondre Stevenson had a great game, the game against the Jets. 16 carries, 71 yards, 7 catches for 72 yards. Wow, it's big. 143 yards on the ground. 443 total scrimmage yards, giving him 21.3 points. Good job. Amari Cooper, as mentioned earlier, he did throw a pass earlier, was picked. I mean, it was terrible if you saw it. Terrible. Though he did catch 5 catches, 131 yards, and a touchdown. So giving him 23.1. Romeo Doubs had a good game as well. 4 catches, 62 yards, and a touchdown. Demagreg was kind of throwing shade at Doubs, and he totally got 16.2 points. So in your face. Noah Fant, 3. No offense. Noah Fant here got 3.9 points. 2 catches for 19 yards. But the big score on the day, Alvin Kamara, one of, I think, 5 guys to get 3 touchdowns this week. Kamara had 42.8 points. He had 18 carries, 62 yards, a touchdown. But that wasn't where he did most of his damage. In fact, he had 2 touchdowns through the air, 96 yards receiving on 9 catches. So good job, Alvin Kamara. And I think that the Saints want to trade him for to the Eagles for their first-round pick back. Deontay Johnson, 5 catches on 9 targets for 35 yards. A lot of this was the fact that they were playing Philly's defense, and a lot of receivers you need to downgrade when you're playing against Philly. A lot of running backs, I would say, normally you would think that you would downgrade. But Jordan Davis, their defensive tackle, is down for their foreseeable future, and they allow 5 yards a carry to running back. So Deontay Johnson did not have a good game. But again, look at that, 9 targets. So he's getting his targets. The volume is there. He's got more targets than points. He had 9 targets and 8.5 points. All right. Less people of note on the bench. Let's see. Derek Carr had 1.94 points. I'm just going to leave it at the points because that's just sad. That is just sad. DJ Moore had 33.5 points. He had 6 catches, 152 yards, and a touchdown. One of them was a 50-plus yard touchdown. That one was at the end of the game to send it to overtime. He threw off his helmet, and they penalized him for it. The kicker subsequently missed the extra point, keeping the game tied. They lost in OT. Both teams had at least one possession in that overtime. Falcons got it first, had to punt. Panthers got it, had to punt. Falcons drove it down, got a field goal. So, sad day. Yeah, that's about it. So, good game, Masters. Let's move on to Crushers. Crushers had Josh Allen, probably one of his worst games. What a bum. He only got 23.62 points. They beat the Packers, and that game should not have been close. I really didn't see that game. I had a difficulty getting it on there and just didn't care to watch. I guess, I don't know. I pretty much assumed it was going to be a blowout, but it was a lot closer from some Buffalo fans in the office I work at, and they were complaining about how he just, third quarter or something, he just looked lost and didn't know what he was doing. 13 completions. Wow. Just above 50% completion rate. Wow. Flashbacks to his rookie season, anyone? 218 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, but he also threw 2 picks, and he ran for 49 yards. So, but you know what? It doesn't matter because they got the win. So, yeah, it stinks for Crushers that he didn't do better. Had Josh Allen had a Josh Allen type game, it would have been a little bit closer as far as point wise. But yeah. Dameon Pierce had 14.1 points. He had 35 yards on the ground, 3 catches for 16 yards, but he got a touchdown. So that loss to Tennessee. Tennessee had a pretty good defense. They bottled him up. But yeah, so he bounced back. Since this is Friday as of recording, he has played Thursday night, had 139, whatever it was. Yards on the ground. No catches, no touchdowns. So it's like 131 or something. I don't know. I think it was 131 yards. Yeah, great game for Dameon Pierce in Week 9. But as far as Week 8 is concerned, actually had less points. He had more points in Week 8 than he had in Week 9. And he did and got 35 yards on the ground. So that goes to show you how much the passing game is worth. Saquon Barkley had a down week. Not a bad week, but a down week. Oh, bad efficiency-wise. 53 yards on 20 carries. Ugh. He got a touchdown. He also had 3 catches for 9 yards. Again, for whatever reason, Seattle just had the answer, and the Giants just couldn't make it work. Let's see here. Davis only had 55.5 points. He had 2 catches for 35 yards. Sorry, I was already looking ahead. Jalen Waddle, 30.6 points, 106 yards receiving on 8 catches, and he got 2 touchdowns. So Tyreek Hill, who got 36.5 points, had 188 yards receiving on like 12 catches, no touchdowns. And yet here's Jalen Waddle right behind him. And it's those 2 touchdowns. So Tyreek Hill starts getting scores, man. He could win a game a week for somebody all by himself. Well, as a matter of fact, so could Waddle. T.J. Hawkinson, 12 points. He had 3 catches for 80 yards. Fun thing to note, he's now a Viking and no longer a Lion. And, of course, it says that he got his 3 catches and 80 yards against the Cardinals, in which he didn't, because we all know that the Lions actually played Miami, not the Cardinals. Sorry, that just bugs me. Looking at stats, like I love looking at stats. I love looking back at this stuff. Kind of the reason why I'm doing this podcast is, I love looking back at these numbers and seeing how players are doing and commenting on the ups, the downs. And this is just something that's always bugged me, how it just says, you know what, we're just going to make it reflect the entirety of the Cardinal or the Minnesota Viking calendar. And it's like, it's stupid. I hate when it does that. It's trivial and stupid, but for somebody who actually looks at the stats and goes, oh, let me look back at what Hawkinson did with the Vikings against this team that they played earlier in the season in the division for whatever reason, and I'm going to see how they did. Oh, wait, I forgot. He never actually played against them. Or how would I know that? Because it doesn't say when he got traded. It's just frustrating. All right, end of rant. Jonathan Taylor, 5.6 points. He had 16 carries for 76 yards. He also lost a fumble. Did not catch a ball, so that's crazy. And also, guess what? He's out this week. For Week 9, he's out. Yeah, that stinks. Justin Jefferson had a bad game. 6 catches for 98 yards. Yep. No touchdowns, but 15.8 points. So they won against Arizona, so it's no need to wish for more. Man, why am I so tired? Oh, I know. Because I don't sleep. All right. Players to note on the bench. Aquanemius St. Brown had 10 targets and 7 catches and only got 13.9 points. So he can do so much better. Garrett Wilson had 18.5 points. Good for him. 6 catches, 115 yards. No touchdowns, but good in the efficiency rating. So that finishes the Masters of the Universe and Crushers. Masters of the Universe goes up to 3-5, and Crushers drops down to 5-3. So, crazy season. Just nuts. All right. Now we are on to another top matchup for this week. We had Blue Mittens, JB against Whisker Biscuits. Playoffs! And Whisker Biscuits came out on top, 165.1 to 151.42. So it was a close game. I know he was JB was upset that he had the third highest score of the week and still lost. It's just unfortunate it came against a guy who scored more than you did. Sorry, there really wasn't supposed to be any attitude on that one. The late great John Madden said something along the lines of, if this team really wants to win, the only way they're going to win is to put more points against the other guy. So I definitely butchered that paraphrase, but you kind of get it. Unfortunately, JB came up just short. Although JB would have beaten everybody else with the exception of Whisker Biscuits and Dem McGregor. Lamar Jackson, 25.82 points. He had 27 catches. 27 catches. That's got to be a record of some sort. Completions. I saw CMP in red catch. I don't know why. Dumb. 238 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also had 43 yards on the ground. Lamar Jackson, 43 yards. Definitely on the lower end. I kind of look at that and go, him and Kyler Murray and Jalen Hurts, they need to run the ball a little bit more. Not saying, they need run design plays, but if they look and they don't see anything, that's when Lamar Jackson is best, is when he doesn't see anything open and everyone's running back. You got deep routes and crossing routes, and people are not able to just sit there in the zone and look at the quarterback, and they're in man coverage. That's when Lamar Jackson's able to really break some big passes. And I know that he has the highest singular score for any player this year. He had like 60 points. He had so many yards on the ground that game. It was nuts. DeAndre Swift, 14.3 points. He had 5 carries for 6 yards. Oh, that's atrocious. For reference, Najee Harris had a better efficiency on the ground. DeAndre Swift got a touchdown, which salvaged his points. He had 5 catches for 27 yards and that touchdown. So he's lucky he got in the end zone. Otherwise, Najee Harris was showing him up. Here we go, ETN, Jacksonville's savior, and even though they came up just short, he was the only reason why that game was close. He had 24 carries and 156 yards on the ground. Big rushing game for him. This is a career game. He had 1 touchdown, 3 catches for 6 yards. So, great job, ETN. T. Higgins, game that him and Tyler Boyd could have blown up without Jamar Chase in there, and they didn't really do that. They had a big touchdown catch, which gave him a couple extra points, 3 catches for 49 yards. So, it's a very pedestrian output. So, I don't know. The touchdown, obviously, and the extra points, that makes it a little better, but still. Brandon Ayuk had a really good game, 20.1 points. He had 6 catches for 81 yards and a touchdown. He's been coming on a lot in the last couple weeks. He's got, in the last 3 weeks, he's been putting up some good points. Lowest in the last 3 weeks is 20.2. Highest is 28.3. So, good job, Brandon Ayuk. Keep it running. Mark Andrews, he clearly is injured. Still hasn't gotten over whatever he's ailing him right now. 3 catches for 33 yards. He only got 6.3. So, I don't know what to tell you. It's just not a good game for him. Darrell Henderson had 5 points, 4 carries, 16 yards, 2 catches for 14. Sorry. The Rams offense and just their inability to run the ball. Kyren Williams is going to be coming back here soon. He was activated off IR. So we'll see if he can really cut into any of Henderson's carries. In addition, didn't they add a running back? No, did they? I feel like they added somebody. I know they have that other undrafted guy from their practice squad, but oh right, Cam Akers came back. Not an ad. Addition by subtraction. Cam Akers is back, so he's going to eat into whoever. It's going to be a three-headed monster, and by monster I mean pink little kitten that meows and runs away. So, the opposite of that, on the flip side, Derrick Henry, 36.8 points, 32 carries, 219 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 catch for 9 yards. He has owned Houston. They kept coming in with these stats. He has the most games, most 2-score games against the same team, like consecutive games against the same team. It was against the Texans. He's either tied for first or has the most now. He also has the most 200-yard games. Rushing games. Oh, shoot. What was that stat? Has something to do with 200 yards. Like he needed 200 yards to be a leader in some stat. I can't remember the stat anymore. It's thrown out there, and I don't know. And that was his starters. Let's look at the bench. Jamal Williams had 10 carries, 53 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 catches for 23 yards for 22.6 points. Had he played Williams over Henderson, that would have given him enough to win. Unfortunately. Terrence Marshall is up there, and he had 4 catches for 87 yards. I really don't think that he's going to be able to replicate that. You would hope that he could. Coming out of LSU, I kind of low-key thought he was going to do some pretty good things. He stood out when Jamar Chase took his season off through COVID. Obviously, Justin Jefferson. Yeah. So, yeah, it could have ended a lot different. Yeah. So that's JB's team. We're moving to Whisker Biscuits. Let's see how he did. Jalen Hurts at 37.4 points. He had 19 completions, 285 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 carries for 10 yards. So that's a good game. The win over Pittsburgh. Leonard Fournette had an average game, but not a lower end for him, but an average game. 14.8 points. He had 9 carries for 24 yards. Definitely a low stat line there. Oh, yikes. He did score a touchdown on the ground. He had 3 catches for 34 yards. So Leonard Fournette was good for fantasy, just not so good for the game outside of that touchdown, obviously. But they still lost. Aaron Jones did a pretty good game, 19.7 points. He had 20 carries for 143 yards. Yikes. Oh, no. Sorry. I just got a update for fantasy basketball. That's sad. One of my top scorers there. Anyway, 4 catches for 14 yards. If you're wondering, because I know 3 of y'all are basketball players in here. Not basketball players, but playing basketball fantasy. Pascal Siakam went out with a groin injury. That's sad. All right, moving on. Stephon Diggs, 23.8 points. He had 6 catches on 8 targets, 108 yards, and a touchdown. He had a really interesting interaction with Jair Alexander out of the tunnel, and then at the end of the game. I mean, it's just there's a line. Come on. You don't got to chase a guy out the tunnel, and that's just a little too much. But he backed it up in fantasy and was able to do pretty good. So, good job. And they got the win. But I think it's funny that both Jair Alexander and Stephon Diggs, both post-game, said, oh, yeah, I won that matchup. I won that. Like, Stephon Diggs was like, scoreboard? Duh. Here we go, Devontae Adams. He has a 1.2 points. He had 1 catch on 5 targets for 3 yards. A lot of that's Derek Carr, but that was just a bad game. It's a really good game. Better credit really should go to New Orleans defense than it does to than admonishing the Raiders offense. Zach Ertz got 13.4 points, so good job him. 4 catches for 34 yards, but he also got a touchdown. Sad they lost. I'm not sad. It is sad that they lost, and he had a decent stat line, but he'll get over it, I'm sure. Melvin Gordon, week after being completely shut down, was it 2 weeks after being, I don't know. 9 carries, 29 yards, a touchdown, 3 catches for 23 yards, so, no big deal. Good job. 14.2 points. And finally, the last player on the counting for this week, 40.6 points, went to A.J. Brown. 6 catches on 10 targets, 156 yards, 3 touchdowns. Again, one of 3, I think it's wide receivers, but it might also include running backs. 3 players, I think it was, obviously it has to be running backs because Christian McCaffrey, but there were 5 players that had 3 touchdowns last week. So, how many did you have? Just one? Oh, okay. Other players to note, let's see, on his bench, Devin Duvernay, 16.4 points. He had 2 carries, 33 yards, got a touchdown, 4 receptions for 31 yards. But the thing is that Rashad Bateman is out for season now. So we'll see if that means the Ravens abandon the passing game and just run the ball, because Duvernay does get some carries, obviously, or if some of those targets will go to Duvernay. Who knows? All right, that was Blue Mitten and Whisker Biscuits. Whisker Biscuits moves back up into first place. Or stays in first place, I believe. I can look that up real quick. Yeah, stays in first place at 6-2, and JB falls to 5th at 4-4. All right, last matchup of the year was a real dud. Delmeezy against Motley Fool's Choco Taco. 93.52 points for Delmeezy, 61.88. I mean, anyway. Aaron Rodgers, 19 catches, 203 yards, 2 touchdowns, a pick, and ran for 11 yards in the loss against Buffalo. Aaron Rodgers has lost now, 4 or 5 straight? Sad day for Aaron Rodgers. 2 of the active quarterbacks that people would say are like GOATs are struggling. Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. I don't know. Not anything else to say on that. I guess 19.22 points. Chase Edmonds, 1.4. He is officially, and I'm sorry, it has not officially. It's been official for a long while, but he was replaced in Miami by Mostert. And then he got shipped off to Denver, which I think is an even worse position for him because you got, Latavius Murray, Melvin Gordon, and now Chase Edmonds. So, and that contract that Miami signed him to, the Broncos, they finally they have to carry that contract. So that's a poor decision by Denver to acquire Chase Edmonds. He only had 14 yards on the ground. Come on. That's it. Helps contribute to that 1.4 points. It's just sad. One that is not sad is Dalvin Cook. Got 25.1. So that's 20 carries, 111 yards, a touchdown, 5 catches for 30 yards. So, good job, Dalvin Cook. He had a nice big run at the end for that touchdown. It's a good one. Rondale Robinson, 2 catches to 15 yards with 3.5 points. Alec Pierce got 10.5 points, 3 catches for 65 yards. 1 was 40 plus. Yeah. Evan Ingram has had a couple of pretty good weeks strung together. He has 15.5 points here, 4 catches, 55 yards, and a touchdown. So good job, Evan Ingram. See if he can keep it up this week. Robbie Anderson got targeted 3 times and didn't get any points. Jerry Jeudy had 18.3 points. He had 6 catches, 63 yards, and a touchdown. People to note on the bench here, not really. All right, moving on. So Motley Fool, 20.48 points for Joe Burrow. I'm actually surprised he got this many. He had 232 yards passing only, 2 touchdowns, but he had a pick. He had a D touchdown. He also lost a fumble. That was a strip sack by Myles Garrett. You're welcome. Yeah. Brian Robinson, 2 points. He only had 20 yards on the ground. I don't know why he didn't get more run, but hey, I'm not the coach. Miles Sanders had 13.8 points. He had 9 carries for 78 yards and a touchdown against Pittsburgh. So, decent game for sure. Tyquan Thornton had 2.3 with 1 catch for 13 yards. I think it was a fluke the 1 week that he put good luck last week to Choco Taco for putting Thornton in and getting the 20-some points, giving them that win. But this week, Thornton only got 2.3 points, which I think is going to end up being the norm. But, with crazy quarterbacks and all this stuff going on, you never really know, do you? Here's Rashad Bateman, who got nothing. He was targeted once, and that was it. And he's also out for the season. Freiermuth, 9.7 points. He had 4 catches, 57 yards. I can honestly see him getting a little bit more run, but I don't have a crystal ball to see. It's hard to tell with a rookie quarterback at the helm, but never know. David Bell, 4.7 points, one of his better weeks. He hasn't had a lot of good weeks so far, which is a little sad, but he had 2 catches for 27 yards. Lastly, Michael Gallup had 8.9 points, 4 catches for 49 yards. People to note on the bench, Gesicki had a good week, 12.8 points. Dulcich had 12.7 points. So had some good guys. I will say one thing though, in the other league, without any of these crazy trades that happened this offseason on Sleeper, Motley Fool's team is in first place and by a lot with his roster that he had. He's clearly going in another direction. I comment on this every fucking week. I comment on this, and I'm sorry that I'll stop. But it's just nuts. Again, it's a numbers thing. So the difference between one manager and another, what one values versus the other, it kind of boggles my mind. It's great. It's a good thing for people who love stats and fantasy football, honestly. Because, one person may like a guy, another person can't stand the guy, even whether or not he gets points or not. Could be because he got burned in the past, or the guy could be injury-prone and he doesn't want that risk, even though every week the guy scores a ton of points. It's just kind of crazy. Although Choco Taco went from having one of the best rosters in this league to the far and away worst roster as far as being able to put up any points. The only reason why he's within 75 points of the next worst, I think really lies in the fact that some of his players in the last couple of weeks have spiked and gotten a lot of points for him. I think he's going to get whatever in the draft he's aiming for, he's definitely going to get with his pick. So the rest of his picks will probably end up in the later part of the first round. So we'll see. I'm interested to see what he does with his team. You never know. You never know what kind of craziness that can happen. All right. So looking at Week 9, Big Papa Swag against Bumpo. Big Papa Swag is right now, after Thursday Night Football, has 24 points thanks to Goddard. Bumpo has not had anyone play yet. Suck My Unit is going up against Whisker Biscuits. That is right now, Whisker Biscuits had quarterback and wide receiver play. He had 39.92 points. So far, Suck My Unit hasn't had anything. Choco Taco is going up against Masters of the Universe. 15.3 for Choco Taco. That was Miles Sanders. Delmezy and JB, right now Delmezy's slotted for a loss by 16 points. No, I can't math. 26 points. Yeah. No. Yeah. Public math, man. And finally, the matchup between near the top, another top matchup. This is a tough sledding for the Guillotine. He's had a bunch of really tough weeks in a row. Playing Crushers this week. Right now, Crushers has 13.9 points and is projected for the win. But you never know, especially with a bunch of Guillotine's players blowing up these last couple weeks. So, good stuff. Good stuff. Good looking out. So, let's look at any games in particular looking forward to. Well, Philadelphia obviously played Houston already, and Philadelphia, up until that fourth quarter, they were in trouble. All right, let's see. I think it'd be a decent game with Green Bay and Detroit. Yeah, both teams going in. Green Bay is going in a direction they never really go. They've had quite a bit of a slide. Detroit has also lost a lot of games. This is going to be a win for someone. Hopefully, they don't tie. Knock on wood. I kind of think Detroit's going to beat Green Bay. I'm getting that feeling. Their offense is clicking as long as they can keep that momentum going, and their defense can do just enough. Not that they've done anything this year. They got to do something. And I still think the Detroit defense is such a letdown, man. Their offense is near the top of the NFL, and their defense is just I don't know anything else more to add there. Let's see. What else do we have? Seattle, Arizona. That could be a decent game. Rams and Tampa Bay. That is going to be a huge letdown. I am sure of it. It's either going to be a shootout like it was a couple of years ago, or it's going to be dud. And then we have Baltimore and New Orleans on Monday night. Sunday night game, Tennessee, Kansas City. That'll be interesting to see. The greatest interior defensive lineman per PFF grade is Chris Jones for Kansas City, and him seeing if he can stop Derrick Henry. So it'll be a really good matchup, actually. And then, Monday, like I said, Monday night, Baltimore, New Orleans. So we'll see what goes on there. Let me see if I can look up. That's not what I'm looking for. Nope, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm sorry, folks. I'm trying to find. Man. Never mind. I guess I can't do this in this. All right. Well. Never mind. And that is the end of this week. End of the Week 8 review. Week 9 preview. Hope to see y'all next week. Well, good luck to all y'all. And I hope everybody loses except for me. Just kidding. Have a good weekend, y'all. Hope y'all had a good happy Halloween, and we're inching closer and closer to that Thanksgiving. So hopefully we can spend some good time with your family. So, all right, y'all. See you next week.